Now is the time where I've got to do something extremely hard to move away from talking about the ridiculousness of sports to talking about something incredibly sad, something incredibly difficult, something extremely hard. And there is no easy or smooth way to do this. As some of you may know, the Jungle lost one of its own yesterday when we received the news that Randall in the OC had passed away. You may have seen the tweet from his account. Quote, "It is with a heavy heart that I notify the clones, friends, and Jim Rome that Randall FWFI has unexpectedly passed away. He leaves behind a wife and young daughter. Close friends only, please reach out via message and I'll reply when I can. Thank you all." End quote. This is an absolute gut punch, and I can't begin to fathom or imagine the pain and the grief for Randall's family. If you know this show, you know Randall. You know about the guy who started making a name for himself as an emailer when he would sign his name Randall, wait for it, in the OC. And there was this period of time where everybody tried to figure out where he was in the OC. North County, South County, Orange Coast. Was he a Garden Grove man? Newport Beach? And then we got our answer. It became very clear that Randall was everywhere. And when I say that, I mean that. He was everywhere. Randall was in the studio. Randall was at a Costco. Randall was anywhere, and he was everywhere. If there was something show-related, Randall was there. Like the time in 2016 when he went to the track to see Stays in Vegas, and he knew the sport. Check this call breaking down the history of racing. Randall, are you in the O'Reilly Auto Parts studio right now? Do I not see you?
Jimmy, how you doing? No, I'm not. How you doing? I'm in the parking lot, actually. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm great. I know you're close wherever you are, Randall. So tell me about that day. How did it go? And if you got a second, Randall, kind of explain what it is about horse racing that you might like that people just don't get and don't want to get.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Jimmy, I actually have been doing it, my whole life. My dad took me there, probably in the mid-'70s, 75. I went a lot from 75 to 85. Those 10 years, me, my dad, and my brother and my uncle, we'd go to all the tracks in SoCal. It was basically Los Alamitos, Santa Anita, Hollywood Park, Del Mar, and we even went to, Pomona. So we'd go wherever the meet was, we would go, So, and yeah, I fell in love with it. It was actually like the first sport that I knew, before even whatever, baseball and football. I was into horse racing, and yeah, you got to know the trainers and the jockeys. I had favorite jockeys. Bill Shoemaker, Lafitte Pink Eye was my favorite, but I like Chris McCarron, Gary Stevens. Those guys, those are the guys I grew up with. So, but Pink Eye Jr. was always my favorite. But if you know the jockeys and stuff, you will get into it. I knew the horses. Was affirmed and Spectacular Bid. I saw those horses run too, so it's really good. But it's a good day.
See, Randall was anywhere and everywhere, and Randall emailed and tweeted, but Randall rarely called the program. That was a rare call. He also broke down the race that day.
The Periscope, it struggled at first. I was trying to get you at the paddock, but it wasn't working. I couldn't get any reception. Kept saying poor connection, so I couldn't get you at the paddock. But I ended up going, right at the wire when the race started. That's when I scoped it, and it worked because I had a pretty good reception there, I guess. So I ended up scoping the whole race. All the clones were with me. All the clones were with me on Periscope. It was cool. Then pretty much I helped call the race. I mean, she ran a great race. I'm just all heart. Stays in Vegas, just phenomenal. Just battled the whole way. Perfect spot. Third at the top of the lane, and then just took down Be Mine. I mean, what was she, 3-5? Took down the favorite, and then Solis just really outdueled Bays. I thought he gave it a great ride.
Randall, you nailed it. Great job. Thank you for periscoping it. Thank you for representing. Always good to see you. Randall's like the stalker that I like. Randall's a good stalker. But dudes, is he here? I wasn't even there for one of my favorite Randall memories at the track. I was at the O'Reilly Auto Parts managers meeting when Shared Belief had arguably his biggest race ever. It was a showdown with his rival California Chrome in the San Antonio Stakes. We always thought we had the better horse, but Chrome was the people's champ. Chrome was the horse that won the Kentucky Derby. Chrome was the horse that had a look at the Triple Crown. Chrome had a much bigger following than Shared Belief. But the day they ran against each other in the San Antonio Stakes, Randall showed up. He showed up and he stood in with everybody rocking purple for California Chrome. He represented Shared Belief. He represented Jungle Racing. He represented the Jungle, and he represented the Rome family. And speaking of the Rome family, I'll never forget Randall being at the track and shouting out to our younger son, Logan. Logan! Logan! Rat family, Logan! Tell your old man to bring it back, Logan! Logan, the Rat family! Logan was blown away by Randall. Logan actually was awed by Randall when he first met him. But getting to me in the paddock was nothing for Randall. Check out this tweet from Lef. Lef tweeted, quote, in 2015, Randall and I got locked out on the roof of the old Jim Rome studio trying to find it. Here's a tweet from Denlesks, quote, absolutely devastating news about the passing of Randall. Had the gift of knowing Randall for several years, and he was totally genuine and one of the most loving people I've ever met. Prayers to his family as we await info on how we can assist them. I mean, I could read tweets and emails for hours about Randall, and not just about him making people laugh and bringing joy, but about the times he reached out to people to check on them, to check on their families, to follow up, to see how somebody was doing. If you're missing Randall right now, like we all are, check out the tweets about him, see the impact he had on folks, because it truly was special. If you want to call in and share your memories of him, we can do that as well. I'm going to take a break right now, and we'll come back, and we will talk about Randall. As a family, and we lost a valued member, a very important member of that family, and people were hurting very badly today. Randall, WFIC, in the OC, passed away yesterday, and I mentioned this in the open, and I said if you want to talk about Randall and you want to share your thoughts, go ahead and do so. In fact, the first person to want to do that is somebody you all know. He was the longtime executive producer of this program. Kyle Brandt has gone on to do his thing with the NFL Network, but he had plenty of dealings with Randall, and he had some thoughts that he wanted to share. KB, nice to have you. How are you?
Dude, it's KB. Wait for it, in New York, and I am bumming today, man, because we lost a good one.
No doubt about it. So when you think about Randall, Kyle, what comes to mind? What are your first thoughts?
So many things, so many positive things. Randall was a true clone in the most positive sense of that term. Randall was a clone, dude, with all the trimmings. He loved the Jim Rome show. He had a unique handle. He had his own stick. He liked the clone stuff. Randall was a big Rat Family guy. He loved sports. He loved the Broncos. But more than anything, dude, he adored being part of this jungle community. And I know for him to be talked about like this, to be honored by you, would just make his world. Make his world.
KB, do you remember, well, obviously you do, but you had an encounter with Randall in a Costco. What happened?
So, I mentioned his shtick, which you've heard. Randall the joke was he was the stalker, okay? And the stalker came from the sweetest, most positive place in that Randall liked being around the show. He wanted to be involved. He liked coming to things. And the stalker thing happened because, I'm going to say, man, in about 2014, there was what I would call a period of highly concentrated Randall encounters. We kept running into him. I think in the space of about a week, we saw him at Santa Anita, came out for a race. Then, the next day, I ran into him shopping, and we took a selfie, which someone just tweeted at me. It's on Twitter, same picture from years ago. And then a couple of days later, I got to make a Costco run. And I bring my son, at the time was 1, Calvin, this little toddler. You go to Costco, you're a little tense. You know it's going to be kind of a fight. We get to the front of the store. I set Calvin down. I got my elbows out. I get the cart going, and Calvin takes off. Calvin runs around the corner. I'm scared. I'm frantic. I'm tearing after my kid. And before I round the corner, I hear this voice say, Calvin! And I'm thinking, who's calling out my kid? Do I have to fight somebody right now? I come around the corner, and there, crouched down to Calvin's level, is a smiling dude with sunglasses and in a Rod Smith jersey, giving Calvin a high five. And it's Randall. I just saw him 2 days ago, and Randall spots up. Calvin's growing like a weed. He looks great. And then he wants to get in his Broncos tapes and everything. And I have never been so relieved to see someone in my life that I was right there in the Costco parking lot of Randall. And he was the best. And then it took off. We tell that story on the air. And next thing you know, understand, anybody who's not familiar with this, no one loved the Randall stalker shtick more than Randall. He was a very self-aware, self-deprecating guy who would email in his own jokes. And Jim, if you would come back from the weekend and say, well, I cooked out behind the backyard over the weekend, Randall would immediately email in, yeah, you know, dude, from my perspective behind the garage, I thought the chicken was a little overcooked, but I was using binoculars at the time. He loved that shtick. And when I left 3 years ago, almost to the date 3 years ago, a bunch of the clones made this video as I left, and it was left on the Guna, Mark in Hollywood, and they're sitting there at a bar stool or at the kitchen table or on their couch, shot for shot for shot. And you get the Randall shot, and he's in the bushes, surrounded by leaves and branches, and he's whispering, KB, I gotta be quiet. I'm in Romy's backyard right now. Just want to wish you the best. I gotta go. And then he pulls up the binoculars. He loved it, man. And whenever we would see him, he would tell us how much he loved it. And that's part of the reason Randall was so lovable. He was just a good, fun, goofy, sweet guy.
He was, KB, and I know that hit you pretty hard, and I really appreciate you that upon finding out that news, you wanted to call up and share your thoughts on that. And I know that would mean the world to him too, KB. Thanks so much for doing it.
Anytime. Thank you, dude. And thank you, Randall, wherever you are.
It's Kyle Brandt, who immediately, as soon as he found out, reached out to me and said, I would love to share my thoughts on Randall. Randall, wait for it, in the OC. Man, what a big heart. Always had a smile. Always had a smile. All right, my thanks to Kyle Brandt. What I want to do right now is take a short time out. When we come back, if you've got some thoughts on Randall, again, you want to share them right now. The reaction of Randall is just overwhelming. So much love for Randall. As I mentioned, I could read emails and tweets for the rest of the day on this quite easily. Let me give you a sampling really quickly. Dear Rome, I remember when you first made the jump to CBS. I would fire off emails daily in the opening segment. You'd read a combination of Denlesks, Randall in the OC, or myself, and then scold us for our moronic takes. When I made the switch to Twitter, one of the first clones that hit me up was Randall, a fantastic guy, one of the nicest guys in the JTP. He will be missed by many. R.I.P. Randall. I'm sure you are still watching all of us. Signed, Dan, WFI in Denver. Dear Rome, not too many clones are universally loved in the jungle, quite like Randall. Seeing the news last night of his passing was truly shocking. I never got a chance to meet him, but from everything I've seen and heard from him, he was amazing. R.I.P. Randall. I'm practically in tears all morning. Signed, Chris, no longer in St. Pete. War Randall being put in the jungle ring of honor. Dear Rome, the overwhelming love for Randall is so touching to witness. I hope he knew how much his jungle family loves him. He loved and supported every clone, no matter how well known that they were on the program. I wish I got to meet him. My sincerest condolences to his family and friends. Rest in peace, Randall. The JTP will never forget you, brother. Love, Nikki. Rome, many of us who never met Randall in the OC are taking the news of his death extremely hard, so I can only imagine how it must feel to be somebody who did know him. He could be found in every single photograph of a clone gathering in SoCal with his signature goofy smile and enthusiasm. He loved you. He loved the show. He treated every clone as an old friend. Those of us who never shook his hand or had a conversation grieve for those who did. We grieve for his family, and we grieve for a life taken away too soon. The proper way to honor Randall is not to take a shot, but to drip dry a bottle of Jack Daniels and fall asleep standing up over a barrel. Good night, you legend. I know you're watching over Jim from the clouds, just as you watched over him from the bushes in his backyard. With love, Caleb. Wait for it in Green Bay. There's so many of these. I mean, I could read these for the next 2.5 hours. Romy, straight take. A heartfelt RIP to Randall. The dude was freaking hilarious. He provided a legendary soundbite that would get stuck in my head all the time. There would literally be times where my kids would ask me a question like, can we play outside? And I would respond with, yeah! My condolences to his family, you and the XR4TI, signed Geoff and Lincoln. War a Jungle Heaven with Randall. And Mike in San Diego, driving everybody nuts by constantly screaming, yeah! And Romy, the Giants win the pennant. The Giants win the pennant. And one more. Dear Jim, the entire Clone family lost one of the best in Randall, WFI, and the OC. Unfortunately, a lot of us never got to meet him in person, but I can guarantee that anyone that had any type of interaction with him would say, that's a guy I would love to hang out with. Not one person had a bad thing to say about Randall, and his dedication to your show was unmistakable. Whether it was him mixing it up with us clones, chugging at halftime during a Broncos game, you reading a tweet or an email from him and hearing your reaction, or even if he was allegedly hiding in a bush outside your house, everything Randall did was to the absolute fullest. Deepest condolences to all of Randall's family and his close friends. Cheers to every day being a back-in Friday for you now, Randall. Mike in Buffalo. These are only emails. I mean, there's so many tweets that echo the same thing. Telephone number is 1-800-636-8686. You know, it's really hard and it's really sad. But Randall, if Randall were here, he would hit us all with a big, yeah! And he would have that giant goofy smile, and he'd bring such energy and enthusiasm. And my man was happy. Always happy. Let's go to the phones. We go to Huntington Beach. Rich Flores is on the line. Rich, good morning. How are you?
Not my favorite day. I have a prepared statement from his wife. I want to say just a couple things. I met Randall the first time at the Big Wings party, Mark in Hollywood. I think my favorite memory from that was when I got a phone call at about 10 o'clock at night and asking where Randall had parked his car. It was pretty funny. You know, Leff and I aren't doing very well with this. He was in our closest circle, one of our best friends. Got to hang out with Randall at, the Chargers mini camps in Costa Mesa or Broncos games in Carson. I was with Randall when I met Janet, your wife, the first time over at the Improv for the disabled veterans. He was in the helicopter with us when we buzzed the tower. He was the guy that was up in, when he went out to Santa Anita that time you weren't there, he was actually the guy who found Terrence and Sierra Madre. He was up at the Buccaneer and asked the bartender and said, hey, do you know Terrence and Sierra Madre? And that's how we found Terrence. I got to go with Randall up to Ron Say's house. Last time I saw Randall was at Hennessy's. I put him in the Uber on the way home, and just nothing but great times with that guy. I want to read this. I'm getting a call right now from Trapper. He's devastated as well. This is from his wife, Crystal. It says, we cannot comprehend the catastrophic event that has taken away the most needed, loved, fiercely dedicated father, husband, and friend. Randall, simply put, my Randy, was a legend. And he was certainly a legend to his 7-year-old daughter, Bella. In this time of immense grief, the best way to find happiness is to remember. I'm going to share a clone story some of you early clones may know, but a lot of you will hear for the first time. I mentioned before Randy was fiercely dedicated. That was the person he was, and it branched out to every aspect of his life, including being a clone and being a part of the jungle. You all knew him as the stalker. We knew him as Jim Rome's biggest fan. If Rome had a horsing race, he was there betting on him and telling all of his friends to do the same. If Rome made an appearance anywhere, Randy did what he could do just to say hi to him. On our first wedding anniversary, I was 3 months pregnant, and we decided a nice drive up the coast to San Francisco, making a few stops along the way would be great. Halfway along, he pulls over and tells me something. He says Jim Rome is speaking at his alma mater, UCSB, and I emailed the show saying we are in an area on our 1-year anniversary trip. And there's no way my wife's going to want to do this, but if you read this email on air, Jim, she'll do it. Randy proceeds to turn the radio on and tune into the show, and not 5 minutes later, I hear Jim Rome reading the email on air. You know, that look of sheer, genuine happiness the kid gets, it was all over his face. Needless to say, we sat front and center in that lecture hall until the very end. Our evening continued by waiting near the limo to catch a glimpse of Rome as he was leaving. Randall's voice carries, and he was able to get a shout-out to Rome when he saw him. That persistence led to his very first picture with Rome. From that moment forward, Randall's desire to be a bigger part of the jungle was on like Donkey Kong. Randall loved Rome and everything about the show, especially the clones. He was one of the best. We thank you all for being a part of his life that brought him so much happiness. Rackham Romy, love always Jungle, Crystal. That's all I really got, Jim. There'll be a GoFundMe that's going to be put together for Crystal and Bella. And I so love that guy. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Rich. I know that's not easy at all. Randall. Thoughts and prayers, Crystal. What an amazing thing. What a courageous thing to craft. What a courageous thing to write. What a courageous thing to share. I'm so glad. I can't see how many clones heard that and cried along with that and are so appreciative that you shared that. And not that this is any news that Randall loved the show, loved me, loved the other clones. And I think the clones that have said this about Randall have said it very accurately. I mean, there's not that one person or that one thing that everybody universally loves, right? No matter who you are. No matter who you are, somebody could find something bad to say about you, but I don't think anybody can find anything bad to say about Randall. And I'm not saying that because we lost Randall. Randall was just that kind of guy. He was just so happy. He was so positive. Man, imagine Randall trying to tell his wife that they're celebrating a time when they're going to San Francisco and he finds out that I'm going to be at UC Santa Barbara and they're honoring me, and can we just stop by there? Can we be a part of that? Like, Randall would do anything for the show. Randall would do anything for me. Randall would do anything for the clones. Randall would do anything for anybody. That was so hard to hear, and I'm so glad that I heard it. And I'm so sorry. And thoughts and prayers and condolences, and I'm glad you shared that, Rich. And I'm glad that Crystal wrote that. And you want to look for that GoFundMe page, too, that will be up soon. 1-800-636-8686. Let's go Little Rock, Arkansas. Nooch. Hi, Nooch. How are you?
Hey, Jimmy. Thanks for taking my call, bud. I was actually doing pretty good, holding it together until Rich Flores, and that was a beautiful phone call. And thank you, Rich, and thank you for reaching out to Crystal. Just real quick, man, I know you got other stuff to do, so quick story with Randall. I was fortunate enough to know Randall for the last few years. My very first trip out to SoCal was about 4 years ago, and nobody on the JTP really knew who I was yet, but Randall dove into my DMs and had us meet him at this wonderful little spot in Laguna Beach, and he bought us lunch. I'm talking, we were like 33 hours road haggard. We looked like trash. Randall showed up with that giant smile and those epic shades, and proceeded to show us an amazing time in Laguna, even though we looked like we were hitchhikers. He is an unforgettable soul. I'm fortunate and blessed to say that I knew him. I personally will be chugging some Jack and Coke every Broncos game this season and probably next season. And before I get out, Jim, I got one more thing. I would like to politely ask if little Alvy could add our epic and beloved yeah to the deck of yeah. War Randall, war the Broncos. I'm out.
Thanks, Noosh. Appreciate it very much. I bet there are a million stories like that where somebody comes in and they're not really known, or they're the new person on the block, and Randall just invited everybody in with open arms. Randall with the big bear hug, the big smile, always welcoming. Let's go to Fall City. Liz. Hi, Liz. How are you?
Hey, Jim. It's a hard day. You said earlier that Randall was everywhere. In here, there are beefs, there are fights, there are times when we get burned out and we rebel, and times when we laugh and cry. It's impossible to explain this jungle family to outsiders, and we, as a jungle family, and a clone family lost the biggest light in the jungle yesterday. Randall was the epitome of joy, of being bigger than life, of being gracious, loyal, and mostly full of love. He was joy and happiness and loved every single clone unconditionally. And I've never known a clone more loved than him. Light is everywhere, even in the darkest places. If you look for the light, you will find it. And Randall, he was that light. He was at Del Mar, in your studio, at Big Wings, and every smack-off call of left. He made you want to be a better person, and he will live forever in our hearts. He was the best, the king, a truly special and beautiful person, and we will all miss him tremendously. I love you, Randall. And Alvy, can you hit us with another yeah and put it in the deck of yeah forever? Thanks, Jim.
Yeah! Thanks, Liz. Very much. And I'm sorry. Let's go to Huntington Beach. Silk. Hey, brah.
Bruh, this is a tough day, man. Randall's such a great dude. You know, we were AFC West guys. You know, we were a Charger fan and he a Bronco fan. And my wife and I had plans to hook up with him this season for a couple games. And, you know, the Jungle family is tight. And I travel in circles with lots of friends. Not all of them are daily listeners or really know what goes on their own show. And there were times when I was with a group of all my bros and females too, a bunch of all of our friends, and when Randall would show up and everyone's like, dude, that guy is awesome, what's his deal? And I'm like, it's just Randall, bro. He's like the coolest dude. This is going to be a tough football season, not being able to see Randall scoping before the game, scoping at halftime. Nothing better than seeing Randall with his head in his trunk, hiding from parking lot security, drinking a Jack and Coke, bruh. I know you're up against it. I'm not a religious guy, bruh, but my thoughts are definitely with his family, and hopefully we'll have information on some sort of service for him. All right, later, bro.
Thanks, Silk, very much. All right, so that's hour number one